Hey, welcome to the EveryNothing Podcast, where we like to talk about everything and nothing at the same time. So no topics off limits. We appreciate every single one of you, and we hope you go to Facebook and like and share. And make sure you go over to the YouTube and you hit subscribe. And make sure you go to Instagram and hit that little follow button. And then we'll have a good time. Because the more fans we have, the more fun we're gonna have all the time. I don't know why I went into Seinfeld mode, but we did. So let's go.
It's called the EveryNothing Podcast. Two young strapping lads offer their insight into everything. It would be crazy not to listen. Obvious geniuses.
Oh, anybody listening, don't go to college. It's a fucking scam.
He'd probably stop and be like, no, you're all wrong, man. All wrong.
Sorry, Grandma.
This is the EveryNothing Podcast. If you are looking to learn many things while also learning absolutely nothing, well, here you go. Enjoy the show.
It's just so damn funny.
Beer
gnomes.
I didn't know I could bring one.
Of course you can.
This is a dry podcast.
Yeah, dry podcast.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm in a dry county.
So Dominick, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing swell.
Good. I'm gonna take a swill of your swill. So, what are you drinking? Nothing over there? What are you?
I'm starting to get into like lawn care and stuff. That's how old I am now.
You say lawn care?
Lawn care, yeah, dude. I put this stuff on my lawn called Mesotrione, like Meso Horny, only Mesotrione, and it kills all the weeds. It's pretty awesome.
This is fascinating.
Hold on.
It is.
The other day I actually I went to Walmart and I went to Bed Bath & Beyond. No, I just
That place is actually pretty cool.
Bed Bath & Beyond. So Dominick, you and I used to be in band together. We used to jam and we used to hang out a lot. And then I moved.
Yeah. Yep.
And then every time
We were in Salamander for, I don't know, man. What was that, like 4 years?
No, God, it was longer than that, wasn't it?
Was
it 4
I
years?
don't know. It's hard to remember all of it.
Did you guys ever play? It was all covers, right? No originals or anything like that?
Correct. We tried to do some originals from time to time, but we tried to write originals from time to time, but I think we got together twice just to even go over ideas. And the backgrounds are entirely different from all the guys in the band.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Because we actually, the one gig that we rehearsed the very first time, it was down in, was it the casino there, wasn't it? Down in Oklahoma?
Rehearsing? Oh, yeah, okay. I was like, we never rehearsed, did we? Where was I?
Well, we got canceled from, not canceled, I guess we got canceled.
Fired. We were fired, dude. No, I think there was something about no specific songs that couldn't be played, and I think Crazy Bitch was popular at the time, but the casino, you couldn't say the B word in the casino, kind of a deal.
You couldn't
Nothing on stage but water
in a casino.
It was
yeah.
Sounds like an oxymoron.
Well,
yep.
It was called the Downstream Casino down in
Joplin,
Oklahoma. Joplin. Oh, is that? Yeah, that's right.
Joplin. Yeah, Joplin.
The drummer we played with, he had a literal little pink house.
Yeah. So we'd never been to Todd's house before, and we didn't want to rent a room if we didn't have to try to save some dough. And Todd's like, we'll go stay at my house. And so we're heading down this road, and man, there's this big, beautiful house. I mean, 3 stories. Had to be, who knows how large this house is, but like picture essentially a mansion in the country kind of a deal with a pond out front, all manicured. And Todd's like, well, there's the house. And I'm like, holy shit, man, that house is amazing. And then instead of turning the right where this house is, he turns to the left where you could hardly notice there was a house. And there's a little pink house there that's all crooked. Got a possum outside eating. He's like, "Get out of here, possum."
And it was a 2-bedroom house, but one of the bedrooms was occupied by plants.
Was Todd? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Plants. Was Todd part of the band? Is this who Todd is?
He was the drummer.
Yeah, he was the drummer.
I said that. Yeah. So
he plays in the Accidental Moguls now.
Yeah, that's right.
He's still at jamming.
Yeah, he came up and we watched a 311 movie in a movie theater, like maybe 2 years ago. Maybe, I don't remember.
311 movie?
Yeah, I don't know.
They released a movie. Yeah, but you should see the guy. He has this long hair now and it's flowing.
Yeah.
It's just really crazy.
Todd, the drummer, dude.
Oh yeah. So we got canned from Downstream Casino, and we got paid. And of course, Todd was like notorious for being like really pissed off about everything, and so he was like, I can't believe you fired us. And of course, Dominick and I were like, we're getting paid. Who cares?
Yeah, we got paid, so we're good.
Yeah. So we went back.
Now the strangest thing about that was how there's that backstage area. Little does anybody know, in a casino, you have like the stage set up and then like where the buffets are and all that kind of stuff. And there's kind of a catwalk, for lack of a better way to put it, only on ground level. That's like a hallway that goes around the entire casino. And so I'm walking back down that hallway to get, band areas and all access kind of areas. And this big mafioso looking dude comes over and he's like, "Are you the leader of the band?" And I'm like, no, and he's like, "Well, come with me. You need to come with me." And I'm like, "What the hell?" So I'm quiet and I feel like I'm following the principal in high school. And we go back to like his little office area. And I think somehow we got a couple of the other guys back there. And then he's like, "Hey, we don't need to play tonight. We're going to have the other band." There was 2 bands that played in the same night. So we played second the first night. Then the next night, well, since our stuff was already set up, we were going to play first, and the other band was going to close the show. And, I don't know. There was a bit of that kind of rivalry, like, your band is lame because you don't play Crazy Bitch. You know what I'm saying? And they're tearing their stuff down. We're setting our stuff up and probably appear a little bit pompous. Then the next day, of course, we get fired. And so they're watching us, waiting for us to tear our stuff down so they can set up again and play the entire night. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so this stage actually was above the bar. So we were looking down at the bar and these people. And it was like crazy because nobody's watching you. They're all playing games or whatever. And you're just kind of like, this is stupid.
I've been to a couple of casinos where the bands are playing. And it is always kind of like a weird situation. It's like, I don't know. I mean, like the band, with the band's playing, everyone's just kind of playing games, and it was like, oh yeah, this band, whatever, slot. But from what I understand, is they pay super well. I mean, I've never actually played in a casino, but we've had a couple offers. We've never actually took up on them.
I think they wanted us just to be background noise, and we weren't really a background noise kind of band. We were a get the audience involved kind of band, and let's have a party. And they didn't really want people to quit playing to come watch the band.
Well, yeah, that's less money in their pockets, I suppose, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Because they're paying you guys, and they're losing money on the slots or whatever the hell people are playing.
No, it did pay well. I mean, I don't remember what we got paid, but I remember. So the point of that is that we got fired. Todd's freaking out. Dominick and I were like, whatever. The actual leader of the band, he wasn't there yet. He went to a buffet or something, and so he heard about this.
Yeah.
And of course we had no signal or whatever, so we're trying to call him, and he's like, and so he got here after the fact, and we're like, well, what should we do? And we actually went back to Todd's little pink house and rehearsed for the first time. And this is like at least 6 months into a year of playing.
Wait, this is in Missouri?
Yeah, I guess.
So you guys were out of Missouri?
Well, and Todd lived in Kansas at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would have been relatively close to where you guys were from then, right?
Yeah, well, we were
in that band, they were an existing band, Salamander, and they needed a fill-in bass player, and being a guitar player, but nonetheless being on the stage forever, then I'm like, sure, I'll fill in. I can fill in playing bass. And their existing guitar player knew me. Then went, well, he can't play bass. He's a guitar player. And so a week before the show, whoever was supposed to fill in playing bass canceled out. They're like, can you learn all these tunes and play bass? And I'm like, sure. So I borrowed a bass, learned all the tunes, went and played this 4-hour show with him, and Paul showed up to audition live at that show.
Night.
And so Paul's like, "You mind if I play, a couple more tunes?" And I'm like, "Dude, play the whole night." So Paul auditioned on stage and got that gig, and then a month or two later, their guitar player, something happened with him, and they ended up pulling me into the band as a guitar player, and I joined on stage. And Todd, it was Todd's first show when I had joined on stage. So the whole band kind of swapped every member in the course of a month.
So Salamander was one of those like really big cover bands that kind of just went from place to place and could always.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a couple bands like that who have always like cycled through members, but they've always had this big name behind them. So anywhere they play, they'd always have like big crowds.
Well, and the thing about this band was because Todd and Dominic and I, we kind of really gelled really well from the get go.
Yeah.
And so we took a lot of songs and said, "Hey, how can we make this our own?" Like for instance, we did like "Baby Back" and we did Justin Timberlake, and we just made it a little bit more rockin' and metal, But
we did the "Toxic" by Britney Spears. Don't you know she'll make your cock sick?
That's right. We did do that. That's right. But he was
any.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, anything that's every once in a while you're cutting out. So if I pause weirdly, it's because I'm like, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? I don't know. No, I didn't even know what I was going to say. It's all right. Go ahead, man.
Oh, do you remember that gig we played in, was it Butler, Missouri? And we're going to play Closer by 9 Inch Nails. And
yes. Yes.
And it's like, do you remember what happened?
You're I can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, great.
I didn't hear you.
So we were playing that gig, and
it's gone again.
Well, I don't know, man.
We'll have to caption you. Just put some captions up so I can see it. Read it at my leisure.
I don't know what's going on with your connection, man. All right. For the people listening, this is what happened in the show. We're playing Closer by 9 Inch Nails, and you know that song, it says "fuck you like an animal." And well, this young like 6-year-old girl started dancing with her on this like right in front of us, and we started playing the song, and this girl starts to come up to dance, and we're like, what the hell? How can we play this song with a 6-year-old girl like dancing in front of us? And we're like, why the hell is she in the bar? And then so with the singer ended up taking the words and changing it to, "We're going to the zoo to see some animals."
Yeah, on the fly.
And Dominic and I started laughing so hard. I don't even know if we like made it through the song.
We're playing the song right. Yeah. How many songs?
Yeah, we made it through the song, but
that you like loved forever, but you never actually listened to the lyrics. And then when you actually listen to the lyrics, you're like, holy shit, that's what this song's about.
Yeah,
that was pretty obvious, obviously.
Obvious.
But like "Semi-Charmed Life" by whoever sings that song.
Third Eye Blind.
Third Eye Blind, yeah. It's a pretty rough song.
Oh my god. Hey, I've been telling everybody about the casino gig that we did down in Quapaw when we got like stuck in the rain. And do you remember any of that?
Yeah, when you crashed my car. Yeah, I remember that. No, it was at the. Well, I mean, we talked you into driving. It's what happened. Paul didn't drink that much if we were out playing live. I mean, really, he'd drink a few beers or whatnot. But when we played this place down south, we got all the free booze that we wanted. And so I'm a Jaeger bomb fanatic. And so that being the case, I mean, I was the Jaeger bomber down there, just constant Jaeger bomb, Jaeger bombs. So the end of the night rolls around.
That's always a fine line because no matter where you play, they always give you like, they'll feed you full of liquor and stuff like that. So you always got to find your line between like getting too hammered and fun, you know what I mean?
This place was great. They had Marshall stacks down there, so I would literally bring a guitar and a cable.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
And that's all I had to drag. The drummer didn't have to drag a drum kit. We just went down and played their stuff. As a guitar player, it was kind of interesting because I'm used to playing like a rack full of gear and more, Kozriki kind of tone, a real solid tone. And to go in and just plug into some stacks and play through was kind of a cool exercise for the night. Get a little bluesier, a little tastier. But nonetheless, went down there, drank, like a fish, at the end of the night. It's raining like crazy, like God is mad. I mean, just the rain is just coming down in buckets. And the vocalist and I talked Paul into driving. He's like, no. So we've talked him into it. And we're like, just stay on the main highways, and you should be fine. And because it's down at Lake of the Ozarks and all the roads are windy. And the rain lets up. And so Paul hangs a left to go down this windy road. And there's a sign that says impassable during high water. But if you're from the city, that doesn't mean anything. And so Paul came around he came around that corner doing 35, 40 miles an hour. We weren't really speeding. I mean, you just came around driving, moseying on, and there's a fucking river going across the road. I mean, a river going across the road. So we hydroplaned and ended up in a ditch with part of the car, one side, whole side, the passenger side in the ditch, and the driver's side out in the road. And so I wanted to get out and assess the damage. And I'm in the back seat, so I opened the door. When I step out, that water's above my knees, and I'm in the road. So yeah. Anyway,
no big deal.
We need to find tow truck driver. My phone's dead. Paul's phone's dead. Russ's phone's dead. Just things lined up
been
awfully.
Like the middle of the night too, if it was after a show, right?
It was the middle of the night, probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd guess. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we ended up walking down this little windy road, and cows are looking at us like, you guys are dumb.
Before you go down that path, do you remember you getting out of the car and then getting swept into the river and holding on to the front grill?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was floating out there like a fishing lure. My legs just flapping. And Russ thought I was going to die, so he opens up the passenger door, and the whole car fills with water.
Yeah, that's right. That's why his phone died, because he opened up his door and all this water started coming in, and he's like, "Oh man!" And he closed the door. So we like somehow get out of the car. Dominic, I don't know how you got out of that river. I thought you were dead.
Yeah,
some shit you see like in the movie that actually happened.
No, I had
holy fuck.
Yeah, I ended up just kind of flipping my way like a lure over to the driver's side of the car and walking around. But Russ, you guys thought I was going to shoot down the hill.
Oh yeah,
because that's right. It was on a big ass hill too.
So then we started walking down the street to find a place to call, because nobody had phones, because we're all dumb, and it's still raining out.
How long ago was this?
Oh crap!
This is back in
at least 2 years. It was probably 7-8 years ago.
Well, no,
but remember, we didn't tell anybody about this for a good year because we figured nobody had believed the story.
Well, what's funny about that? So we walk down, we find it's got to be 10 years ago. My God, I don't know, whatever.
What do cell phones look like? Do you remember what your cell phones look like?
It was not an iPhone.
Flip phone. I had a flip phone.
All right. It wasn't too long ago then, I suppose.
So we walked down to this house, and these cows are staring at us like we're idiots, because we were. Dominic is freezing because he has been.
Oh, yeah.
He is soaking.
Swimming.
Yeah, he went swimming. So he's freezing to death. We find this guy who, it's like, now I guess it's got to be 4 o'clock in the morning or something. We go down to this, it's just a farmhouse, and we go to the back door, and Dominic's over there like, and the guy comes up, and the kids are up, and we like wake up the whole house.
Oh, the farmhouse?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
We felt like idiots. So then the tow truck guy shows up. I'll let Dominic tell this story because this is the best part.
Oh, what's that? You're still cutting in that. Sorry, dude. Tow truck driver. Tow truck. So I'm freezing my balls off, and the dude's already called the tow truck driver. You've already called AAA, right, Paul? Yeah. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So the tow truck driver shows up, and it's like November or something. So I am literally like frozen solid, and we're like, yeah, the tow truck driver is here, and he doesn't really want us to get into his cab with him. Do you remember that?
Well,
he doesn't really want us to get in the cab.
Yeah.
But he did take us out to the car, and so he's laying under my car, and he's hooking up some chains from the tow truck to the car, obviously, and he's laying like in the water in the road, and we see this truck coming at a high rate of speed, probably doing 50 miles an hour down this road that we just, careened off of. And so Paul and Russ are like, hey, slow down, and they're waving their arms and jumping up and down. And this truck goes flying by and hydroplanes over the water and runs this dude's feet over.
What?
The tow truck driver's feet. Runs his feet over. So this dude jumps up and starts he's jumping around, bouncing and falling back down and screaming his head off because his feet just got run over by a car. And he was fine. It took him about, I don't know, probably 3-4 minutes. You know, the whole time I'm like, I was in the back of the car at that time. That's right. I was in the back of the car. And after he got his feet run over, Paul looks in the back window. I'm looking out the back window. We're looking at each other like, did that really just happen? That's crazy. But he was fine, and we were fine, and we got back in one piece.
All the gig money for that gig went to that tow truck driver.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
And so what was interesting about that whole weekend was there must have been a hurricane that came up because there was a ton of rain that weekend. And when Dominick and I were driving down to that week, going down to the Lake of the Ozarks, Dominick's like, "Why are all these cars pulling over?" And he's like, "I'm like, I don't know. Maybe there's a tornado." And he's like, and he looks over to the left of him, and he's like that thing right there.
Is that what a tornado is?
And so we end up so that was like the beginning of the weekend. And so that first night we played, remember it was pouring out, and we were like sitting in the bar just like waiting after the gig was over. We're sitting in the bar just waiting to, I don't know, do anything. And Todd comes back in, the drummer, and he's like, "Dude, there was just a huge fight in the parking lot, and everybody's in the mud running around." And we're like, we missed
Woodstock.
Well, that's what he described to us. Do you remember that story?
I don't. I remember something about it, but I don't remember exactly what happened there.
That was probably the night that you were drunk.
Which night?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
at that place, yeah,
that place was crazy. So that was our
Big Daddy's. Big Daddy's.
Yeah, is that place still around? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know if they're still around or not.
I doubt it. No, but it was good. It was one of those places you like to go down because you didn't have to bring any equipment with you, which was awesome. So
that's so weird. Like in my case, I do everything modeling now. So I have this big pedal board and I play everything through a pedal board.
Sure.
It'd be weird to just walk in and plug into a Marshall nowadays for me anyways.
Yeah. It was an interesting challenge. If you play, 5 nights a week like we did, we played, isn't that about right, Paul? 4 or 5 nights a week, every week for years. I mean, it was grueling because you'd do your day job and then you'd go play. And it's one of the, it's strange when you love music so much and you love playing out so much, but you do dread certain shows. You're like, man, I am just beat. And you got to show up and jam. And then once you start jamming, though, it was so fun. There was a certain chemistry between Paul and Todd and I, because after those guys kind of slowly started leaving, I tried to stick around. We slid some other really good players in, and the chemistry was just never right. It just never was a band of brothers like it should be.
Yeah, and that was the hardest part about playing with other musicians after playing with those guys, because it was like,
you get used to playing with people. Yeah, I played with a couple guys for 4 years, and you get really used to playing. Then you start playing with someone else, and it's like you have to relearn how to play music almost.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you always thought it was more like almost like a job interview. You sit there and go, "Are you really? You can play your instrument, but we don't really care if you're the best. We just want to know, can you hang out with us?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain flow, like a friend of mine, Sanjeev, that I'd played in other bands with, who's an amazing bass player, but he's a progressive musician, so he likes Dream Theater and Fates Warning, Queensryche, that kind of stuff. And to show up and play Brown Eyed Girl, it's just not really his bag. And so the gelling, even though he and I had played together in progressive projects, he and I playing together in that project was a little weird. Paul's a little more free flowing with his playing, and it'll just adapt to whatever we're doing. He'll listen to me, I'll listen to him, and we'll make music out of it. Stan just was always wanting, kind of, let's play it really tight. No, the song goes this way. And it's like, no, don't do that. Come up with your own way. The original version kind of sucks.
Well, that's the beauty of playing cover music, is to be able to do it how you want to do it.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
I will say that the first time that we did that rehearsal over after we got fired from that, it was the first time we were rehearsing. It was the first time that we actually went, "Oh, this is what we're doing." And after that rehearsal, I felt like the band got way tighter. Like we kind of got each other, like what we were going for.
Yeah, there was a chance to discuss rather than just play. I mean, anytime we had an instrument on, we were in front of an audience up until that point, which was probably, a year later?
Yeah, it's got to be a year.
I mean, it was crazy. We'd already played together on stage for a year, but we never got a chance to go, hey, what about this part? Or I like it when you do this, or that just never happened. You just played from song to song to song when you were on stage, and at the end, you tore your shit down and went home. And somewhere in between there, you just drank a lot.
That's funny because that's such a weird concept for me because like the bands I've been in, we rehearse like fucking crazy.
Oh,
before any show, it's like everything's down to a T.
Yeah.
Well, no, I played in a couple of bands here in town, a Queensryche tribute band where we did, just tons of Queensryche tunes, and an 80s tribute band. And those guys wanted to rehearse twice a week, once for one project, the 80s tribute, and once for the other project, the Queensryche tribute. And then you'd play maybe every other Friday.
Yeah.
And so that was after Salamander. And so for me, it was like, what is this rehearsing thing that you guys are so fixated on doing? Let's go perform, because performing it in the basement for yourself and going, oh, I played every note perfectly versus, seeing really what that looks like in front of an audience versus bringing it to somebody, actually playing music live and watching the audience respond to that energy, as opposed to, like it sounds like a loud radio and you got some dudes that aren't really the actual band jumping around in front of you.
Well, what I liked about also playing with Dominick was that the fact that people would go, hey, can you play this song? And we're like, not yet. And we would go into the car, we would listen to it and go, I think it's in this key. And we're like, okay, cool, we can play this song. And we would go and play the song.
Yeah, I've jammed with dudes in the past that their theory knowledge is lacking to the point that you can't communicate about it without an instrument on. Where you grab a guitar and you go, after the ooh, 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 that goes, you know what I mean? And it's so much easier to go in the car, hey, what key do you think this is? It's either G or A. And what's the progression? Oh, it's a 1-6-4-5 progression. Oh, okay, cool. And then you show up to the gig and you go, you want to do that? Sure. All right, let's jam it. And then you play the tune, What's this part sound like? Oh, he's going to the 6th chord there, and then you just play it. Being able to communicate we'd learn tunes in the car driving to the show.
We would, yeah.
Yeah.
But it also took that. I mean, Russ kind of knew the words and everything that really helped. So
yeah.
But it was funny because we would play a song. Well, the first time we ever played Hot for Teacher, I mean, we literally played Hot for Teacher on the fly. We never rehearsed it.
Yeah.
You happen to know it. In the
a little bit.
I feel like that's the one you kind of got to know a little bit. Probably.
Yeah.
Well, again, I've listened to it enough times that I'm like, oh, I know that it does this during the chorus, and I know it does this during the solo, and enough to. But I never played it.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of another story, Paul. So once upon a time, I think we were playing the Call Casino in Miami, Oklahoma, and I got hammered, unfortunately, like pretty badly during. Yeah, that's right. So the Call Casino on their Facebook page had a picture of me double fisting Jaeger bombs and Vegas bombs for probably 2 years. Yeah, it sure as hell was. So anyway, I got up the next morning, and this is back when we used to all stay in like the same motel room, classic bands stay in the same motel room kind of a deal. Yeah. And I woke up the next morning, and these guys are all looking at me with big grins on their face, like, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, man, you played Hot for Teacher like somebody that's never even seen a guitar last night. And I looked at them and I went, we played Hot for Teacher? I couldn't even remember, so yeah, it was pretty awful.
So did you ever do that again after that experience? Did that ever
happen? I don't know that I would get that crazy. I mean, most of the nights we could drink throughout the night and not really have much of an issue at all. But those Vegas bombs, I can't drink whiskey. If I drink whiskey, I just lose my stuff. So Vegas bombs got the whiskey in it, just killed me.
That's funny you bring that up. The first band I was involved when we put out our first album, the exact same thing happened to me. It was a party night. We were releasing our album. We were having fun. It was our thing. And I remember starting to play the show, and the next thing I remember was getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same thing. The guys looked at me and were like, dude, what the fuck?
We played
Oh, my bad. And I've never gotten hammered before a show again. I mean, a couple of drinks and stuff like that.
Fuck. I think the roughest show that I remember us playing was we played a night. Let's say it was a Saturday night, and of course you tear down. You get home from that show at 3:30 in the morning. Then the next day we had to be at a speedway to play at like 8 in the morning, an acoustic show at a speedway. And so there's cars like zipping around the outside.
It was a bike rally at the speedway.
Yeah, that's right. And all I know is just like we had just went to bed, and then you wake up and grab an acoustic and go do an acoustic show. It was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
And then we had a show that night. If I'm not mistaken, we had a show that night or something also.
We had a private party at some.
That's right.
But so what's funny about that gig is that I brought my dad with me, and I had our minivan, and all these bikers are leaving, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here because I have my dad. We gotta go do whatever we had to do, and I like drove in the middle of this caravan of bikes as they're all leaving.
You're that asshole, huh?
Minivan, the leader of the pack. Rum
People
rum.
that just pull out their guns and start shooting.
I'm sure they were pissed off with me. I was just like, because I was like, oh, we got to get out of here now. And then I was just about to leave. And then all these bikes were like, we're going to go at the same time. And I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, man. So the first night we ever played Hot for Teacher was down in this Podunk town. Remember that? Oh, man, what the hell was the name of that town? It was like a small little town. And we were staying in some guy's camper. Do you remember that gig?
Oh, I don't know the town, but I remember that. Yeah. Oh, the vocalist. He knew where everybody was going to sleep. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
We showed up and he's like, the vocalist is going to sleep here. This has got air conditioning. The guitar player's going to sleep here. There's a fan. The bass player's going to sleep here. It's indoors. The drummer's sleeping here, and it's like under a tree. You know what I mean? He had it all figured out.
My priorities then, huh?
Well, that was the first time
I would have switched the drummer and the bassist around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man! So we played that gig, and I can't remember the place. But what was funny about that gig is that this super old lady and her daughter comes up to me after the gig, and she comes up to me and she grabs my junk and she goes, "You want to come home with us?" And I'm like, "Nope."
Oh no!
Go mudding.
She's not attractive.
Oh,
or what?
that was a different gig. The mudding gig.
Yeah. Mudding.
So at Quapaw, the same place that we've been talking about, there was this girl that looked like the girl from Red Sonja. What the hell's her name? Bridget Johnson or whatever her name is. She's like 8 feet tall.
No, Nilsson.
Yeah, Bridget Nilsson. And Joe just said it totally bang. Hey, Joe.
Oh yeah, I don't even think we said why he's not here, did we?
Well, we kind of said it last week. So
I talked to Joe about an hour ago, and he was talking real quiet. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you gonna be on tonight?" He's like, "No, I'm in the hospital room. We're inducing my wife tonight." So I don't think he probably hasn't had the baby yet, but wish him luck if you're out there.
But Joe, I did put another sound clip just for you in honor that you're not here. Here we go.
I'll eat your ass. I will eat your ass.
That's just for you, Joe.
Do you follow Alex Jones at all, Dominic?
I do not.
All right. He's probably, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're playing this gig, and this girl is like 9 feet tall comes up, and she's scary as hell. And I'm looking up, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to go mudding?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "No." She's like, "You don't know what you're missing." And I'm like, "I think I do."
Yeah.
Oh man. What about that gig that I had to go pick you up in the cop car? Do you remember that gig?
Oh, yeah. 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 So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that story.
I remember that one. Well, okay. You know what? It was before I met my current wife, so I'll tell the story. So, anyway, yeah, I had told the guys, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to go leave after the show with this chick. And so they're like, okay. And Paul's like, I knew you were going to get into some trouble. And so we went off, and as we're driving around, she says, I got to pee. And so a woman saying she has to pee as we're driving back, she pulls into, there's no neighborhoods where we're at. It's like a little gravel road with a gravel driveway. Pulls off in this gravel driveway to pee. And when she pulls into the gravel driveway, she pulls into the ditch. And this isn't a ditch like a small ditch. This is like a gully. I mean, we're talking. Driving. No, she was driving. It's a 10-foot wide ditch that's probably about 4 feet deep. And she pulled her car into that ditch. And so, of course, So somebody drives by that she thinks she knows, and she's like, hey, hey, come rescue us out of the ditch. And next thing we know, man, there's a million cops there. And so cop has me in the passenger seat of his cop car, and we get to talking. And he's like, so what band are you in, or where were you playing? And I'm like, Salamander at the Call On. He's like, oh, my wife is a big fan of you guys. So I'm like, oh, really? And so we get to talking about the show and talking music and stuff. And I'm calling Paul, and I'm like, yeah, I'm hanging out with this cop, come pick me up. And so Paul's like, all right. And he's like, how do I know where you're at? And I'm like, you'll see all the police lights. There's like 5 cops here. So, yeah, he came and picked me up. And
this is a small town?
We lived. Not
Oklahoma.
It's an Indian reservation, so there's all these casinos and kind of, yeah. I mean, it would be a small town if it weren't for an Indian casino every 300 yards.
Oh my! Oh, we had some great gigs, man. So
yeah,
tell us about your new. Yeah,
you're playing with or what are you doing now? We watched a couple of videos from what's the band name again?
Inversion. Yeah. Well, these guys, I was jamming with some other guys once upon a time to put together a progressive project. The bass player wanted to become, he wanted to do these competition barbecues. Vocalists wanted to do these competition barbecues. Nonetheless, we were trying to write some prog music and needed a drummer. Then we found this guy named Greg. And Greg came out and he played some recordings where he sang and he played bass and he played guitar and played drums on. It was just awesome, but we only rehearsed twice with the guy, and then the band fell apart because everybody wanted to be competition barbecue dude. So years later,
as one does,
yeah. So years later, I become really good friends with our bass player now, Derek Spear, who had sang in a bunch of bands in the past and played bass only in a bunch of bands in the past. And we were looking for a bass player or a drummer so that we could start writing some progressive music again. And he's like, I know a guy named Greg. And I'm like, far out, this is the same Greg that I tried to jam with before that was awesome. Mm-hmm. And so he had jammed with Greg in previous bands where Greg had been the lead vocalist, and other bands where he had been the lead vocalist, Derek had. Yeah. And so the guys that I'm jamming with now, it's just a 3-piece band, myself, a bass player, and a drummer. But the bass player and the drummer sing like birds, you know what I mean? They're awesome singers. And so and the 3 of us have played forever. We're all old fogies, So it's easy to write with the guys. We don't have a lot of time these days, as I can imagine that you can imagine, you know what I mean? So we try to get together once a week, and I'd say that works 2 out of 3 weeks. And then one of those weeks, somebody's got to work late or there's some other commitment or whatnot. But even as little as we get together, when we do, man, we're super efficient at getting things done. When you have a practice where things aren't really getting done, it's still things getting done because you're getting time to jam with each other and
just being around.
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of weird now, and maybe are you playing shows, or were you playing shows before all this stuff happened? Are you planning on playing shows after things start opening back up and shit, or not?
We would play shows again. We had played 2 shows only beforehand. The band's been together about 2 years now. Mm-hmm. But for the first year, it was kind of writing material, getting used to the other guys. And again, if you're only jamming 2-3 times a month, it's really hard to kind of get that gel happening so that you can start writing. Now our writing process has got to the point where when we go, hey, let's work on writing something, we jam and come up with concepts. Sometimes somebody will have an initial concept, or we'll just spit one out. I'll take those recordings home, kind of go through and pick the cooler riffs, and take that hour-long jam and turn it into maybe 15 minutes of something that the guys can listen to. Mm-hmm. Then we'll pick what's cool out of that and turn those into tunes. But yeah, we had played a couple shows beforehand at a place called Davies Uptown. And Davies Uptown up here caught fire and burned down.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like a major establishment too. It was like one of the only rock places left in Kansas City, wasn't it?
Yeah, for original material. I mean, there's a few out here. The Hurricanes still got original bands from time to time. There's a place out in Merriam that's got original bands.
A good place for original music nowadays, or at least for rock bands, or what?
There's not a whole ton of venues to play for original tunes these days. There's a lot of cover bars these days, but that changes around about every 4 years or something. It'll go totally kind of original, the scene, then it'll go totally covers, then it'll go totally original, then it'll go totally covers.
Huh. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the times I've been there. I guess I just usually see cover bands, but I mean, I'm usually down in like the downtown area, or like where the Power and Light and all those places are.
There's a place called The Scene on 40 Highway in Kansas City, technically, but if you thought Independence, it's more that Independence kind of area off 40 Highway. And that guy will bring in national acts, and as he brings in the national acts, he'll have original local bands open the show. And so when I was in, sometimes he'll have cover bands open the show too. When I was in Villains Dance and we were doing, 80s tribute stuff, they would have that band come and open the show. But also there was often original local bands that would open those shows as well.
Is it hard to get shows in Kansas City?
It depends.
You've been playing for a while, so
right.
I assume you got some connections here and there.
Yeah, and it doesn't even feel like connections. What the deal is if I go to The Scene, then John Burke, the owner, will come over. Hey, what's going on? Are you jamming right now? You want a show? If you do, just give me a call. You know what I mean? It doesn't even feel like you're working. You just, hey, yeah, I got a project. What do you got open? And they hook you out. Some friends of mine playing other bands, obviously, and that's how we were hooked up with some of the Davies shows, is where those guys would give me a call and say, hey, do you want to come play the show? Another real good friend of mine, Jeff Doling, and his wife, Amber, were doing some booking and doing a production company on the side, and they had hooked us up with the show. Right. Just contacting me. Hey, are you doing anything right now? Yeah, I got a band. Do you want to play this? What kind of music is it? Tell them the kind of music. Okay, you want to play with this band? You want to play with this band? What do they sound like? This one's like, and this one's not. Yeah, let's do the other one, Because we don't do that,
Yeah. Is your stuff out like on Spotify and all that, or just YouTube, or?
There's a YouTube channel, but it's impossible to find. I mean, the only way that you can find us, since the band name is Inversion, is by searching like Inversion Lost, because there's 2 songs that have the title Lost in it, and then you can click on Inversion, and then see that there's like 5 tunes uploaded now. We just finished mixing down another new tune yesterday, and then I have another song that we're working on, but it'll probably be a month till that's finished.
Anything like on Apple Music or Spotify, or is it just the stuff that you've...
As far as whether it's on Apple or Spotify right now, that's a good question. I used a company called, I can't remember the name of this company, but there's a company where you can say, hey, here's a song, put it everywhere, and they put it on like 150 different streaming sites, but I think it just gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
You'd probably really have to try to actively promote to get it found.
Inversion.
I'm going to look it up right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because we do the same thing. Like, our music is out everywhere, and you just have one company. I can't remember who does ours. One of the other guys in the band does it, but you just submit it to this, and then they send it out to Spotify, Apple Music,
TuneCore. TuneCore. That's who we use. Yeah.
Apparently, there is several bands called Inversion. Just like
yeah. We've run into that problem.
This is you, isn't it? Nope, that's not you. That's definitely not you.
I would be impressed. I can't tell, dude. Our logo's pretty flat, I mean, there's not letters above other letters.
You got a song up
pretty
here.
Even font.
Yeah. Let's listen to a little bit of it. Let's see what it is.
Oh, hell yeah. This is like heavy shit. I love it. I hear some pig squeals in there. I love it. Solo in this song?
Yeah, it's about where a solo normally is, like 2.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes probably.
You gotta see that at least, Paul.
Probably like 80% of the way through, 75% through.
Dude, I love the production of it. So,
yeah,
I dig
it.
Yeah, the production's a little. I mean, the music production is. I do that in my studio here, which is really just a laptop and some Yamaha HS8s.
We are listening on the speakers here, and it sounds really nice. I mean, obviously over the stream, it kind of dumbs it down a little bit.
Sure.
When you're listening to it on YouTube, for you people out there, what did you type? Inversion?
Yeah. Well, I actually put the link below. So
nice.
wherever you guys are on Facebook or anything, the link is below for their.
Yeah,
YouTube.
it sounds really nice if you listen to it how you're supposed to listen to it.
And if you go to our Facebook page, Facebook.com/Inversion Band KC, then you'll get a little higher quality of audio. But the second that we put it into a video, the audio seems to kind of get lost a little bit. Yeah. So we're working on finding some way that we can get the actual MP3s out there to people, because those sound way better than any of the video stuff. Right. But yeah, the videos were filmed on our drummer's phone. So our drummer is
That's all you really need nowadays. There's nice phones.
He's got a background in doing a lot of still camera work. So he came over with, I'm going to call them umbrellas and flashlights, where he's got like a flashlight with an umbrella hanging off the tip of it for proper lighting. And then we hung some sheets up downstairs where we rehearse. And then he had me run around. I think it was called a gimbal. It kind of looked like what do they call those?
The camera like straight.
Yeah. So like any of the moving shots, it's me walking back and forth with the gimbal.
Umbrella.
So that, there you go. Yeah.
Everything was like black. Everything was dark because that's just all the sheets around.
Sheets. Yeah, we hung black sheets up, and then of course Greg is a wizard with lighting and all that kind of stuff to make sure that those sheets don't look like sheets.
Right.
But like the kick drum shot, when you see the kick drum going dun dun. Dun, dun, and I'm laying underneath the tom-tom, underneath the floor tom, with his phone pointing at his foot, and we do 2-3 takes of it since there's just the three of us. And our vocalist has a disease called Stargardt, where he doesn't he's going blind, and I don't know how much vision that guy's got, but he can't see things straight in front of him. So he's not a whole lot of help when it comes to the video portion. He's a lot of help when it comes to melodies and songwriting. He's still an amazing player. Great dude, but not much with the visuals, you know what I mean? Well, so it comes down to like me running around with that camera back and forth, or Greg running around with the camera, to get the video stuff.
You have people in the band. I mean, outside of music, if you know people how to, or if you have people in the band who know how to do like video, if you know people know how to mix and master and do that stuff, dude, you win half the battle that way.
Yeah. And with both those guys singing, coming up with melodies and whatnot, or lyrics for that matter, the first couple tunes, the lyrics, I had written the lyrics on. The song that you just heard was actually written by a friend of ours, Scott Goodman, who was the first drummer in the incarnation that was the original Inversion before we actually started really writing heavily. And so Scott was a lyricist and a drummer in a band that I had played with in the past. Actually, the first band I ever jammed with as a kid, at 15 years old. But it is helpful. If it's, like I can do some audio stuff, Greg can do the visual stuff.
What do you use for your audio? Do you use like Logic, or do you use Pro Tools, or what do you use?
It's Pro Tools. Right now I'm using Pro Tools. And I've used Pro Tools since I started using a DAW. And before that, I'd use like Alesis ADATs. So I had two Alesis ADAT XTs you plug VCR tapes into, and that's what you'd record on. So the transport mechanisms, you'd all have to wait on that tape to go forward or backward.
That's the old days, man.
I know nothing about that, but
duplicating tracks and copying it down. You'd literally, like, if I wanted to copy the chorus of one, the first chorus to the second and third one, you would literally make a copy of the VHS tape that had all the vocals on it, and you would set a track offset so that one tape starts playing at 0 and the other one starts playing at like 1 minute and 15 seconds if that's where the other chorus is. And then you would literally copy one tape to the other one at 1 minute and 15 seconds. So they're offset and they would copy that way. That's the only way you could fly a vocal.
Now you just hit copy paste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started using Logic, actually.
Yeah, that's what I use too.
I think they're all the same, really. It's just whatever you get used to. Yeah, whatever you get used to. I've had Pro Tools since version 5.3, and now I've got, I think, Pro Tools 12.
Well, okay, so the issue I have with Pro Tools, and I've never really used, I mean, outside, so like with Logic, whenever you get brand new updates, they're just free updates. With Pro Tools, you have to buy, every time there's an update, you have to buy a whole new version of Pro Tools, right?
Yeah, that would be accurate. The whole deal is the update never really I don't notice a difference.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't notice a difference as long as plugins are still compatible.
Yeah.
I run 5.3 until 6.4. I got somehow for free. And 6.4 was the highest version that I could run with Windows XP. When I upgraded to Windows 10, then I couldn't run 6.4 anymore because that required a hardware hasp, or in other words, a card that would slide in, a PCI card. And I went to a laptop, and that's what I used. So I couldn't run 6.4 anymore. So I ended up buying Pro Tools 12. Mm-hmm. But that's the only reason why I upgraded. As far as the functional difference between it and 5.3, I don't notice any. I don't feel any difference.
Right.
You know, the things that I use it for are still the same as if there was a mixer and tape machines for me. I need an equalizer, a compressor's nice, and then I need some way to, you know, just run it and mix the channels, some faders.
Well, it's kind of funny. Like, everyone has their own way. So, like, the way we do stuff is we'll kind of mess with the song, and I'll work on it through Logic and throw all my plugins and stuff like that, and kind of get like a workable demo or reference track. But really, we have someone who does all of our mixing for us. We just send him the raw files, and he actually does the actual mixing. So I mean, from what I use it for, I just need. I could probably get by with just GarageBand, to be honest with you, a free version of.
Sure.
But so yeah, it's just kind of that's interesting. How those things work anyway.
Being able to move things around, if I wanted to use elastic audio or something, if I want to be able to do automation, I know Pro Tools to be able to do that automation, where if I went to Logic, it would just be like, how do I do the exact same thing I know how to do? So for me, there's an advantage of staying with Pro Tools, but cost-wise, Pro Tools is the least efficient DAW on earth. You know, it's cost-effective to go with any other DAW.
Yeah, and they really are, because they're the industry standard. People who are set on that are just not going to learn any other DAW. And I learned on Pro Tools years ago when I was at Berkeley, but
so we've had this conversation. Do you think eventually it'll start going towards Logic with the younger generations growing up with Apple?
Well, based on the fact that Billie Eilish recorded their whole album on Logic in their bedroom. Mm-hmm. And the fact
that's what I mean, like slowly over another 10, 15 years, everyone will be, the industry standard will be Logic and Apple and whatever.
The only thing is that the professionals are still using.
Now, I'm talking about in the future.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But here's the reason why I don't know if that will happen. Because the professionals are still using Pro Tools, and the schools that are teaching really sound engineering are still using Pro Tools.
Right.
And so, but because the music industry has changed so much that Billie Eilish can record her stuff
from a bedroom and a billion downloads on Spotify,
and so they don't need to go to a professional studio anymore. I mean, I built this studio here, and I just record in here, and that's all I do.
Well, music's changed so much. I mean, I'm taking it, we're basically rock musicians. And so that being the case, we're recording real instruments. And when you're Billie Eilish, you're just doing a bunch of samples. You know, it's a sample of, you know, an Indian butt flute and a sample of a bass and a sample of drums. And so it's just a bunch of samples.
There was a documentary on how she created the song Bad Guy. And, it's actually pretty interesting how they do it. Because, like, I think after the song was all said and done, she had some like 200 something separate tracks of just all kinds of random shit. Like there's one part of the song where she just goes, duh. And there's just like, there's literally like 25 takes of it, and they're all like layered on top of each other.
Well, when I downloaded the new version of Logic, they have a sample song that you can go to test things out, and it's her song. And you open up that file, and it's the most insane looking thing ever, because every little part is like this big, and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like Dominic. I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm used to just hitting record and playing. I'm not doing samples like this big and going, oh, I gotta spice it, and you know. And I know that's not the way people are recording these days. Dominic, what do you think about? Do you think that because of that block of people who are, I'm talking about like a mental block, that they're like, we have to record this way because it's the way we've always done it. And then you have people like Billie Eilish coming out going, nope, we can record whatever we want. I can take this trash compactor and make it into a song. Do you think that there is going to be eventually, like what Robert's basically saying, that there's going to be a shift in the way that music is made and how
I think there's already been a shift. I think that the innovativeness is, I mean, if you heard the stories with Fleetwood Mac recording in their own house, and then they would try different miking techniques and bang on unusual things and get unusual sounds, that's always there. Just innovation, and somebody that's a true musician or a true producer or whatnot, it's always going to look for that innovative new sound. If you're using a sample, that sample's been used somewhere else. And snare sounds or whatnot, you hear that same snare sound from Easy Drummer on too many albums, then people start experimenting and coming up with their own sounds. That'll always be there. As far as the music changing, I think now music isn't really about the music as much as it's about the imagery and being able to sell clothing and being able to sell perfume and being able to sell things. It's not like, Three Dog Night would get popular or something now because they're a bunch of ugly bastards. You know what I mean? They're not going to sell anything except for the music. But when radio was radio and you couldn't see the artist, it was about how creative the music is. Now that you can see the artist, then they can take somebody they're often talented musically also. But
it's more than just the music.
Yeah, and I think it's got too much radio radio company influence, record company influence is what I'm saying, where you can take somebody like Bruno Mars, which I think has a fantastic voice, and but the style of music that is being released by him is going to be something that already is selling rather than something that's going to be groundbreaking and new.
Cookie cutter.
Yeah,
it's going to be a bit cookie cutter. The thing that makes it sound, awesome is his voice. You can take Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift, as much as I would love to just tear into her and make fun of her right now, it would be unwarranted because she's super talented as far as a songwriter, a lyricist. She can play guitar, she can play piano, she can play drums. She can play anything that's out there. But again, I think the record company gets a hold of her and goes, okay, let's take what you're doing, and this is how we're going to package it so it can be sold and you can prance around and, some kind of clothes that we can sell. Wear this makeup and do an ad for CoverGirl or whatever. It's about the ads. It's about that whole package, and it's not really about who does the best music. But there's a bunch of underground music on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere like that, where you can, if you're looking for it, you can find. But you have to interest yourself, because most of the music I really like, I don't really get it the first time. I need to listen 2 or 3 times before I'm like, I really like this.
I would agree with that, because I would call myself very musically bipolar. I listen to a lot of, I'll listen to Bruno Mars, and then I'll listen to some trash can that no one's ever heard of, and I like it all in between, everything in between.
Yeah. And
so unless you do actually dig and find, you'll find a lot of good stuff out there.
And that's the thing is, Robin and I have jammed before. We were basically 20 years apart, and give or take a year.
20?
Well, what are you, 28? No, you're 30, aren't you?
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years apart.
Jeez, you're adding more years to your life.
Oh, man, I'm so old. Maybe I think you're freaking young.
Young at heart.
But, we have because he grew up in the 90s, and I kind of listened to that music too. We have a lot of stuff that we listen to that I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember this song. And of course, I remember coming out. He's just like, I grew up with this. And this is like, fuck, this song is so old.
There's,
a lot of overlap, because I love my favorite band's Green Day, which is very bipolar if you look from start to finish where they are now. But I love Soundgarden and bands like that. Yeah. But then I'll listen to, I love Billie Eilish and bands like that as well, or bands, singers like that. So like I said, it's, I don't know. I like everything.
What I would choose to listen to or what I would buy, they're kind of different. And then what I'll allow to play in the background on the radio and still tune into something is like Michael Jackson. I wouldn't ever go buy a Michael Jackson album, but now that I'm older and have been exposed to all kinds of different music and played different styles of music, man, that guy was so talented. You know what I mean? His voice is really cool, and nobody sounds like Michael Jackson. And the musicians that are playing on those records are world-class musicians, or they wouldn't be on the records. That guy could have anybody that he wants. And so when I hear those songs now, it's all the little nuanced details are so cool, but I would never buy a Michael Jackson record, The guys that I'm jamming with now, the common thread is Iron Maiden amongst us. We all really dig Iron Maiden. But then we all have varying degrees of how much we dig Dream Theater or Fates Warning. Everybody likes it. It's just different amounts. I really dig both those bands a lot. And you mentioned the other guys, and they're like, yeah, they're all right. So what would I buy, though? I would go buy that. I don't know that the other guys necessarily buy it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that the majority of musicians these days, like the talent, the true like raw guitar talent or bass talent is like basically YouTube and doing stuff on their own. I'm not seeing the Eddie Van Halen's coming out of the popular music.
Well, what I'm seeing is there's a lot of, I mean, you can't say it's not talented. There's a lot of guys that are doing this super fast, just shreddy thing that's so clean, so cleanly picked. They're master players, but that kind of expressiveness, that truly what music should be, you know, that expression is more rare amongst players. You know, like if you ask me, Dragon Force, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but the guitar players are so stupid fast and clean players. But I don't really. I'm like what when I was a kid, people would say about Yngwie Malmsteen. You know what I mean? Oh, there's no feel. No, there's Yngwie drips with feel. You know, there's no feel in Dragon Force, and it's not because I can't play that fast. I can't play as fast as either of them motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So it's not that.
I would agree with that. I mean, like you could play a 3-chord song, and if you have a lot of passion and a lot of feel in that 3-chord song.
Yeah, well,
you're a bad or good or bad guitarist.
And I'm not here at all to say the Dragon Force is bad players. Those guys are fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But as far as like that feel in music in general, not just guitarists, I was just using guitarists as an example, but to have that feel that really moves you and creates an emotion is so rare in today's music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of? Because you and I used to have discussions like this when we would have lunch together, like every day.
Yeah, that's more of an ass than I think is my musical taste. Just like, no, if it's not metal, then it sucks.
Well, one of the conversations I remember clearly is that the definition of groove. Like I always, because I'm more of a funk jazz guy, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh well, this song doesn't really have any groove, and you're like, I disagree. And you're just like, just like that. I disagree. Because you would consider certain groove a different. And Robert and I have had this conversation because some of the stuff that he listens to, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't find.
I think we're very different.
Well, yeah, of course we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect
but very the same as well. We cross paths a lot. But like I said, I grew up with like Green Day and like power chord driven punk rock stuff, and you're over there slapping your bass, and I'm like, what are you doing, man? Just play the bass.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I lived in Buffalo, I played in punk bands, and but I mean, we would play
just different styles.
I mean, we would play in Green Day, but we were doing a lot of the Clash, and we were doing a lot of other bands like that. And
when I play a show, I just want to fucking hit my guitar and I want to smash it at the end of it.
Well, see, to me, I mean, as a bass player, I guess you have two guitar players here. As a bass player, I'm really looking for that drum bass groove that you can just go. Man,
I will agree, though. You can make or break a band with a bass player and a drum player.
Yeah,
or a drummer.
Drum player.
Yeah, drummer. Sorry.
You know, one of the things about like progressive music for me is being able to kind of allow everybody to do whatever style they want to do and see what that blending of styles sounds like together. Like I think all the guys in my band now are of the same opinion that like when we write something to go, hey, let's not write something that sounds like it's a pointless argument. It's a pointless conversation to say, let's write something that feels like this, because whatever we write, it's gonna sound like us, you know, in the end. And with prog stuff, our bass player is so aggressive. You know, Derek he just slaps the shit out of that bass with his right hand. You know what I mean? He's a 4-fingered bass player when it comes to that right hand technique, and it's just everything is so aggressive and hard. Where I've played with other guys where that's a real light touch. And it makes you write differently because I can imagine what he's going to play. Or when I'm taking a riff back that we've jammed in rehearsal and I'm listening to it, I'm thinking about the aggression and the sound of that bass. And if I wanted to adapt what I was jamming guitar-wise that it came out, then I'll take that sound into consideration with what I write around. You know,
we did that a lot when we were playing because there's a lot of songs that you would take the guitar part and maybe the keyboard part and merge it into something. And I would take rhythm parts and bass parts and merge them into something because we were only 3 pieces. Really, we had a singer, but we were a 3-piece music band. So we didn't have a keyboard. So we're doing something like Baby Got Back, and I'm doing a whole bunch of different stuff. I'm thinking of like 9 Inch Nails specifically. You were doing a lot of the keyboard stuff. I was doing a lot of the rhythm and guitar stuff because I put like an octave. I would put an octave and distortion on my bass, and we would make a full sound But because he wasn't going, well, the guitar part has to do this, and I'm only doing that.
Right.
He would go, well, the keyboard's doing this, and nobody's doing that. I will cover that.
Yeah.
I think it's like interpreting the music. So you listen to music and you go, what are the key pieces that have to be there? Well, the vocal melody, but sometimes there's these sub melodies that are in the instrumentation, whether that be in the keyboard, or maybe it's keyboard here and it's the guitar here, or maybe it's the summation of the two of them. And so when it came down to Salamander, you would listen to the tune and then you would just kind of play whatever you would play. You would play something different. The first time we ever played the damn thing, whatever it is live. And so you just kind of listen to what the other guy's doing and kind of, hey, there's this part that he's not playing, and that would become like part of my part. And he would go, oh, there's this other part you're not playing, and that would become part of his part. And then all of a sudden, every little important piece of that music is being represented.
There, yeah.
Well, because we even did like Lady Gaga, and we would have to merge this stuff together because we don't have that instrument, and so we would have to. Of course, it always ended up being a little bit heavier than what you're used to. The only difference is that, and this goes back to having a good drummer. Like Todd was just solid. He would just play the beat, and you and I were allowed to play over that and really kind of off his foundation because he would just
he was happy to just kind of sit back and play what needed to be there for the sake of the music. There's so many guys that if you ask me that want to be so showy, that my famous thing for making fun of drummers is like, look at me, how I can play the fill all out of time and too fast. That doesn't sound better. It doesn't sound better to lose time. You're the timekeeper, dumbass. You know what I mean? Play the fill as if it's a part of the music. You know what I mean? Don't try to show off by losing tempo. It's not impressive that you're playing the music horribly. You know what I mean? Play at the right speed,
There's a lot to say to a drummer that can play on tempo, but also put on a fucking show, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think there's just an internal clock once you're thinking music and you're not thinking, I'm trying to show off of my, because of my instrument. Right. To me, I lost the desire to, try to be stupid showy on an instrument. Once you start hearing guys like John Petrucci and Steve Vai, and what's the point? You're not going to be as good as they are unless maybe you're Malmsteen or something, and there is an opportunity of achieving that, but not for me. So it's going to come down to just, being a good player just makes it possible for me to express what I want to express musically, whatever comes into my head, being able to get that to come out, in the form of guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's a lot of times that we basically were trying to create the feel of the song.
Yeah,
I think I felt like we were like musicians, not just a guitar player and a bass player.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
It's a difference there. I feel like there is being a musician versus just being a player.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. From time to time when in that band, I think we would bring that logic up from time to time. Well, don't play the exact notes right here. This is just like playing the guitar part. Play the music. Music is, we would discuss it. No, it needs to have a bigger feel. And it's like, well, I'm playing exactly what goes there, and you're playing exactly what goes there, but it doesn't feel big enough. Yeah, well, let's not play what goes there. Yeah, let's not play what goes there. Let's play something different that feels bigger, Okay, let's do this.
We didn't have 15 guitar players like the recording.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, because you and I Todd was doing the drums, but you and I were the musicians in that. In like everything. And so we couldn't go, well, the bass is only playing eighth notes here, and the guitar is doing this little thing over here. But when we did that, it sounded so thin, because there wasn't the keyboard part, or there wasn't something going on. It was just like, this is stupid,
Yeah, but I wouldn't exclude Todd from that picture either, because swapping drummers underneath us for a while didn't really help for anything. I think it's important, musician versus an instrument player. What you don't play is just as important as what you do play, and I think Todd would listen and play exactly what needed to be played.
Yeah. As I said, it was just good foundation. Mm-hmm. So so I got to piss like wicked bad. So I'm gonna let you guys talk. Hold on.
So what are you doing? So you're playing with Inversion nowadays, but especially are you locked in your house? I don't know what Kansas City's like. I usually try to make it up to Kansas City once or twice a year because I fucking love that town. Just a lot of fun to just go around and have fun. But
I've been classified an essential worker, not McDonald's, but another essential worker.
What do you do? Can I ask?
I'm the business and finance director at a social service company. So we supply the caregivers necessary to keep people out of nursing homes in their home. We send those caregivers to their homes so they don't have to go to a nursing facility. And my job's like all the incoming monies, outcoming monies, manage the office, that kind of thing. The boss is the CEO, and then there's me underneath him that just kind of keeps things running. Right now, there's just 7 other administrative staff. I supervise those guys, but my style and thankfully their skill sets mean definitely infrequent supervision. I'm there. They ask me a lot of questions, but they know how to do their jobs, and I trust that they'll be able to do that. And ironically enough, that job I have because of Paul. Paul had worked there, and when we were jamming in a band together,
that was the place that Paul worked at too. Okay,
I ended up wanting to. I was going to school for nursing at the time, and Paul was like, "Well, you can come over here. We could probably use that skill set." And after I was there for a few months, I became a case manager, targeted case manager for brain injury. And then from there, moved to accounts receivable. And then from there, moved to business finance director. And been there for 10 years now.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
DreamWorks.
So, like,
Is like, I didn't bring it up, he did.
Well, I was just asking what Kansas City was like. So is the downtown area, have you been down there? Is it dead or just kind of over it? And
well, the mayor has recently put a lockdown till at 10 o'clock. So my daughter works in a bar down there, and her shift used to start at 10 o'clock. So now that there's a lockdown at 10, she doesn't really have a place to go to work right now. That lockdown is new. The previous lockdown was midnight or something like that. So the mayor kind of is keeping things pretty locked down up here, at least at night, you know.
So the coof only comes out at night then, as we try to tell you.
Yeah, as long as you pretty much got to have a mask on in any facility that you go into down here during the day, and unless you're eating. If you're eating, obviously you can take it off because it'd be pretty hard to
you're not in
cram cheeseburger
take
through
a
it.
bite, put it back on, take a bite, put it back on.
Yeah.
So Dominick and I actually worked at DreamWorks together for, God, how many years?
I don't know how long you were there, and I was there as an overlap.
Yeah,
probably 5 years.
I was there 10 years.
Yeah, I've been there 10 now.
So yeah,
Jeez, I can't imagine working anywhere for 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, I've been moving around a lot the past 10 years of my life. I haven't been in the same place for more than 2 years.
Well, what was interesting about bringing Dominick on, because I was at the time, I was just like a service. I mean, I eventually became executive administrator, and then I kind of said, see ya. No, but it was a very, Dominick came on right at the time that Obamacare kind of kicked in, and all these different regulations kicked in, and both states were changing stuff all over the place.
Thanks, Obama.
Well, it's not just him. It was like, Kansas changed how they did Medicaid. And Missouri was doing some changes on their programs. And so Dominick and I were basically like two halves of a brain, leading this company where the owner of it was like, I'll see you later. What was that? Whatever. So I don't know how things are going now. I haven't talked to you in so long that I was... same owner. He comes in nearly every day, if not every other day, at about 3 o'clock. So he'll be there from 3 to 5 or something. The interesting thing about that's we're all pretty beat down from being there through the day. We've already been there 6 hours, 6.5 hours by the time he gets there. So when he gets there and he's raring to go, hey, let's do this, this, and this, we're like, oh no. And then from not being there from time to time, his focus is a bit skewed. He used to talk about, and then you imbibe it yourself. But he used to talk about your men on the ground. You got to listen to your men on the ground, the people that are actually doing the work. And so we're actually doing the work there 5 days a week, if not 6. And he'll show up, for 2 hours at the end of the day, and it's really kind of man, if you'd have been there earlier, what you're asking me to do would make more sense right now.
Sounds like Paul.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, I will say that, I mean, a lot of the stuff that a lot of stuff I say, I'm actually learned from Ed.
He's a good dude. Just from time to time, you got to butt heads, and I think when you're passionate about anything, I mean, I'm passionate about music, but my job as well, I just bring a passion to that also, because once you get in it, and then if you're there with the intention of leading others, if you're supervising the rest of the office staff, they need to know what your intentions are. And I mean business, and there's certain things numerically that need to work out numbers wise. If something needs to be done and there's a deadline for that, then I'll supervise until that's actually done. Other than that, everything's, you know, super laid back. It's laid back until it doesn't need to be, you know, and you go over and say, why is this done? This needs to be done, you know?
Well, Dominic and I used to have meetings, and, you know, because I technically I was the boss, but I never really treated Dominic that way. I always treated him as an equal. You and I basically would have these.
Paul was an asshole.
I was, but I mean, but to be honest with you, it was one of those things that I would be able to go to Dominic and go, let's go have lunch and talk about this stuff because I need somebody else to talk to you about.
That sounds different. Oh, okay. I would say that sounds different than the way that you think it's in. I mean, like, it's like, let's go talk about it. Sounds like we argued and you're like, let's go talk at lunch about it. That was never what happened. We would argue from time to time in a staff meeting, for example, with other staff around, passionate about my idea is right, no, my idea is right, and blah, and there would be tension and friction and like heat there in that. And then after the meeting was done, it'd be like, hey, let's go to lunch. We go to lunch and we do hey, like it never happened. Just flick the radio on.
Everyone's like looking like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, from time to time, from Paul would get frustrated or I'd get frustrated, but you know, when you're dealing, just like songwriting, if you're dealing with somebody else and you get to that kind of heated point, but they know that you're aiming for the same goal, which is
like a guitar part, and like, this is fucking awesome, and everyone looks at you.
Everybody wants it to be as good as it can be. They just want it to be as good as it can be. You know, we're all fighting for the same. Right now, I mean, since we brought up the COVID, you know, the political climate sure seems like everybody's trying to pit blue against red and blue against red, and then well, you don't have my idea, so you're an idiot. Oh, you don't have my idea, so you're an idiot. Everybody just wants things to work.
Yeah.
And if we would just realize that nobody's really an idiot, you know, everybody just wants the best thing.
Everyone wants the best, and no one really knows the right answer.
Nobody really knows the right answer. I've got my opinions on it, but they're just not worth me expressing, you know?
Yeah. Wow. You're not wrong. I mean, it's just we constantly argue about different things.
Yeah. We all have our opinions. Yeah.
Shit.
Okay, I'm gonna switch gears because I've been wanting to ask you. So I saw in that video you were playing an Ibanez. Is that something that you play? What's your go-to?
It's always Ibanez. I played Ibanez since I was a kid. My first guitar ever was a Marlboro guitar, and I had a Trump amplifier. Yeah, like
Marlboro.
It was either a Marlboro guitar or Trump guitar. Yeah, it was either a Marlboro or a Trump guitar. I can't remember, or a Marlboro and a Trump amp. But one of those was Marlboro and one was Trump. So they're pieces of junk. And then that Christmas, I got a Hondo Strat copy.
I had this was a Hondo.
And then I ended up getting a Yamaha with active electronics, which I hated the idea of having to put batteries in my damn guitar. And then I got a
most Ibanez. Is your Ibanez active like that?
No. I never
got that. It didn't make any sense to me. Like,
never played
something like that.
Yeah, well, the concept's that you should have better sustain with active electronics, but I don't really need sustain. You know what I mean? I'm probably gonna pick it if I want it to ring. So yeah, I always did passive electronics, and I went with an Ibanez, and the fretboard was super flat. The back of the neck is super flat. It's even spaced. In other words, at the nut, it's the same width nearly as it is where it joins the guitar. So it's really like an even flat fretboard, even on the back and flat. I don't care for
what we
Fender.
saw in the video.
Yeah. Well, I've only played Ibanez. That's probably my 6th or 7th Ibanez guitar.
Is that your,
seriously?
Is that your
yeah.
I've had a couple Ibanez. I've never had a bad Ibanez. I'll tell you that much. It's not the guitar I play nowadays, but that's funny you said 6 of them. I've had so many guitars.
I probably had 3 6-string Ibanezes, and then I bought a 7-string Ibanez S series.
About that.
And Lawrence,
the video's a 7-string, isn't it?
Yeah, I've only played 7-string guitars for probably the last 12 years or 15 years. You know, about the time the Flexible album came out.
You forgot to put your strings there. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if
and Awake. The Awake album that just came out, and I'm like, I'm going to get a 7-string. So I bought a 7, and I've never turned back. Once you get that extra range, it'd be like a vocalist learning to sing extra notes, you know, higher range and lower range, and then somebody going, don't sing those anymore. I mean, to me, like, it doesn't make any sense. Once you get used to the extended range, just play the extended range instrument, you know? I've got a 6-string guitar built in. It just happens to have an extra string up
Have an
above
extra
if I want it.
So I recently discovered, well, not recently, probably in the last year, the guitar maker's Reverend. Have you heard of that brand?
I've heard of them, but no, I've not played them.
Yeah, best guitar I've ever owned. I have a Gibson Les Paul. I've had Gibsons and all, Fenders and all this stuff. Best guitar I've ever owned is the Reverend.
I think it comes down to personal taste. Like, I really like a flat fretboard, and so like Schecter makes a really flat fretboard.
I've played a lot of Schecters I really like too.
At the nut from north to south, the neck is pretty thin, or it's much wider where it joins the body. And an Ibanez just isn't that way. At the nut and where it joins the body are virtually the same distance.
You have a Jetstream? Is that what you have?
It's a Sensei. Sensei. Best guitar I've ever owned. It's a company out of, those are the Signature Series. You got to go down past the Signature Series.
I'm sorry.
It's a local, American made shop out of Ohio.
Cool.
So is it the RA you said?
Yeah.
So it's this one.
Just different finish, but
what color is yours?
It's the tobacco. They don't have it on there no more. But the band I'm playing in now, we play everything in drop C, so it's real heavy and low.
Yeah.
They have these rail hammer pickups in it that give you a real, like, especially when you have that C, that low C, when you're playing those heavy notes, it's easy to lose them in the mix. With those rail hammer pickups, it takes that low note and it really brightens it up.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good guitar. Yeah.
Having the 7-string, typically you can string it however you'd like, but the extra string traditionally is going to be a low B. So if we wanted to play something, drop C, then I would just transpose it and play it in C, first fret kind of a thing on the B string. I think Paul and I did a lot of that where the song was like in an open string kind of a riff, and we would learn it in a closed position. In the actual tune, we played a lot of songs that the artist played as if it were an E, but they detuned. We would just learn it in E flat and play it in E flat, and it was, which is a trip, because then if you jam with somebody else, of course, they don't play it in E flat, they play it in E. And it's because that's where the original artist played it geographically on the neck. And of course, if Paul and I went and jammed with one of those guys, we would just transpose it on the fly and and try to play it.
You're learning any '90s like punk rock, everything's
yeah.
Well, like for instance, the song "Wood" by
Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
Like they would play it in open, the I would play that
fucking jam, dude. I love
would play
that song.
all in closed position, and my hands would be like this for the whole song.
Yeah.
When they're playing it live, it's like, I'm just gonna do this a little bit, and I'm like,
like right here.
Yeah.
It's just killing us right there.
It's all right here.
I can't move my hand.
It's like, can we not play this song anymore? I'm dying.
I love that song. It's one of my favorite Alice in Chains songs.
It's the same thing. I had a 5-string, so therefore we would play in any key that we needed to play in, and that's why I always like. I'm constantly when we're playing songs, I just turn to him and go, "We're playing in this key now," and he's like,
"Okay, yeah." And unless sometimes the riff is pretty darn important that you're playing in an open position to utilize that. But after you had a stab at it and it was like, "Oh, that's really difficult to play there," I'll try it again that way next time. I could probably do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm definitely a better guitarist after the last year playing with you. I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's just because I force you to go, hey, we're playing this key. What? What? I remember the first time we did that. You're like, but the song's in this key. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Like I said, I've always played with bands that are so like focused in on rehearsal, so I had so much time to learn how to play the song beforehand. And then playing with you, it's like, oh, by the way, we're playing it. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
I have to use my brain.
Well, so a lot of stuff I do now, I do a lot of worship leading and stuff, and so, but I will change the song in the middle of the service. I'll be like, you know what? We're not doing the song, and I'll just change everything on everybody. And everybody's super. I've been doing it for a year, and everybody's now. You would get along with me fine because that's what you're used to, anyways. But, I mean, I would just be like, you know what? This song's not going to fit with what the pastor's talking about. We're going to change the song, and he's now get to the point. He's like, okay, whatever.
Getting a little better with it, yeah.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the people in the sound booth. They're like, what are you doing? Oh my God, he's changing something. So it's just I think playing at Salamander so long with you guys, I think I just got used to just being able to do whatever, which is like, okay, we'll just do it here and learn the song on the fly and go, so.
Yeah, we I don't know. It was the chemistry there was just really good, especially for doing covers, because it definitely wasn't there for original material. But for covers, man, we just as you know what it is, as three musicians jamming together, we just gelled really well.
Yeah,
we go, hey, let's do this, and everybody would be like, all right, tick tick tick, and it sounded like we've rehearsed it for 6 months.
Right.
Well, and that's actually accurate because we tried to write some songs together, and it was just not gonna work. I mean, we're just completely different type of musicians on original music.
Yeah.
But it's not that it was just different. So,
Yeah, we all were aiming for something different originally. I think cover-wise, we all were aiming probably for something kind of different. I mean, you're aiming for what the original is, but then your style
still
happens.
Blueprint though, like
yeah.
a blueprint to stick to.
Yeah, you're aiming for the original, but how your style just kind of happens as you're doing that cover. Everybody else's style would kind of happen, and then you would kind of go, where do all these meet? And that would just happen by the end of the tune or by the second time you play it. And then you would just get better and better and better every time that you play it. And we were playing constantly.
Oh, yeah. We were playing so much. And we would do like bike nights on Wednesday nights. And then we would like get up and play on Thursday and then Friday. And
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. Crazy.
I remember that one gig. The one gig we talked about when we got up on Sunday morning and did that bike rally. And then went to play that show. I think we did, 7 shows in a matter of 4 days or something.
Yeah.
It was like, we were like,
yeah.
On Tuesday, I was like, I think I want to die.
Didn't we play a show at the lake where we played a show, then we had to tear down and go play a party?
Yeah.
Then tear down and go set back up to play the next night for the show or something?
No, we had to tear down and go play the party, then break down and go back to that lake house and set back up. But because the show that we did at the party was like a small breakdown show, we didn't have to bring everything we owned. And Russ, I think I had this like a second PA or something, so we had enough for vocals and whatever, and we played the party, and then we were like, okay, well, now we're going back to our main gig.
So I think what the deal with the drinking in excess from time to time was that, like, it was to keep it not from being totally a job, because since that band, I've been in a few that felt like a job from time to time.
And that takes the fun out of it. It's like I'm playing music because I love to play music, and it's like, fuck, I got to be here at this time and do this. This isn't fun anymore.
Yeah, the second that some job things come in, and then you have things that happen like at your work. The vocalist forgets the words, and he goes, "Well, that's because you forgot the guitar part." And you're thinking, "Motherfucker, your words don't have anything to do with my guitar part, dickhead. I didn't forget shit. I was improvising jazz. Damn it,
jazz." I can play all the wrong notes I want to play. Just call it
jazz. I was improvising. Fuck nut.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to use that next time I fuck up.
Yeah.
It's jazz.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I mean, I kind of missed. So did you say that everything is shut down in Kansas City and you're not playing at all?
Right. That's not entirely accurate, but the bars are stopping at 10 o'clock now, so they got to be shut down by 10 o'clock. It's I don't know when that went into effect. I want to say last Friday is when that went into effect. Before that, I think the shutdown was midnight, but yeah, it's 10 o'clock now in Kansas City. So if you went to like Mission, Kansas, where like the Roxy Bar and Grill is now, Jim Kilroy's old bar, he's still out there in Mission, Kansas, and that place is allowed to be up until midnight, because it's Mission, Kansas. And then if you drive out of the city limits where you're away from Kansas City, now Jackson County seems to be following suit with whatever the mayor says. But yes, for all intents and purposes, things are shut down music scene wise. It's just not happening like it ever has,
This year sucks. Like, I'm so used to playing all the time and just can't play.
Well, I see. Ever since I've left Kansas City, I haven't really played in any band. I've done the worship stuff, but I've jammed with this guy, and I've done gigs. Like I've done gigs as in like a fill-in bass player, or as like this is going to be a one-night show. I need a session player, and I would go and play the gig and then be done. But
yeah,
I haven't really. I just haven't like pursued finding a band or saying, hey, I want to go do this again.
Yeah,
I don't want to get back into the 7-night a week thing.
I thought that in the 3-piece that I'm in now, just writing that maybe I would want to get back where I'm playing out every weekend or something in addition to that. And I went and auditioned for some guys, got the gig, kind of a deal, and went and jammed with them 2 more times, and was just like, I said, I don't really have any drive to learn a bunch of covers again, and I could learn the covers in 2 days, I can have this material down. That wasn't the issue. The issue is once you get it, like, what's the challenge then? Once you get it down, what are you doing? Now you're just going out to be on stage. But I don't really want to go out and be on stage and do the same thing that I've done for the past 10, 15 years and play cover music. I didn't become a guitarist because, like, I really just wanted to play covers. Like, you wanted to be Eddie Van Halen, write, and you want to come up with music. And the more you get into the instrument and get into music, the more you like feel the need to express. In the terms of coming up with some material that you dig yourself. And so I've done the cover thing, and it just started to feel like work. And I don't want it to feel like work anymore. I want to actually be able to enjoy the fruits of learning the instrument well and learning about music and how to create.
There's something to be said about playing your own song in front of a crowd of people as compared to playing a cover song.
Seeing those reactions is rewarding, assuming the reaction is good.
Yeah.
Even when the reaction is bad, boy, that's still entertainment.
The first time you see someone like singing a song you wrote back to you, it's like, holy shit.
I think more than anything, there's just a creative like desire. It's like birthing a baby. Like I've had this baby hanging halfway out, and I really need to push that dude out of there because right now he's hanging out. I've got one in me. He needs to come out. Gestation is over.
That's a gross way of looking at it.
I'm just saying, you got that creative outlet. I want to be able to get that creatively out. And Salamander, that the reason why we tried to write is because really I was going, hey, let's try to write. Hey, let's try to write. Nobody else, I don't think at the time, had any desire to try to do it, which is why we only tried a couple times. It just the desire wasn't there because everybody was aiming in different directions. But then the other bands,
too much, man. We were playing a lot.
Yeah, the other bands that I joined after that were really had potential of writing killer material because of their capacity to play. I played in a 2-guitar player band before Inversion, and that other player was insane. I mean, his name's Ryan Repking, and he's just a fantastic guitarist. And I just thought, man, it would be great to write with this guy. And we started to write, and actually we were on the same page as players and writers. But the rest of the band just really wasn't into it. And it's just, I was like, it's time for me to go. I was there for 2 years and then went, I don't want to do this anymore either. So, it feels like work.
Right.
So, Robert, what's like your writing, your band? How do you guys come up with your songs and whatever?
It's mostly is like, say I write something, I'll bring it to the band and then I'll have a structure written. I'll show them the structure and then everyone will kind of start piling on top. Like, maybe this section we should start doing this here. So everyone brings a song, like a structure of a song to the band. We'll start working through it and then start tweaking it from there.
You guys just like, it sounds like Dominick like records a bunch of stuff together.
I'll do that. Like I'll sit down on Logic and I'll record what I think the song should be, send it to him like, hey, listen to this, we'll get together. And then usually it gets, by the time you have like what you have to what the finished product is, it's quite a bit different because everyone adds their own little pieces into it. 'Cause I think we all kind of, like in the band I play in, we all kind of have similar influences, but there's still a lot of different influences as well. So it's kind of along those same lines, but from where I started this song to where it is now, like we have an EP coming out hopefully in December or January, but then we have a whole slew of songs that we've all pretty much written together that'll come out hopefully next year. But from where I written them, like if I played the demo now to what we probably will record, they'll be quite a bit different.
Okay, so you actually like write the full song and then kind of bring it, and then it kind of evolves from there. Yeah,
I'm saying like a song maybe that I written. I mean, we all kind of write songs. So I've been lucky enough. The band that I'm playing in now, I play with some really good like music writers. So we'll all bring a whole song into the mix, so which is kind of cool.
Now, so Dominick, when I heard earlier that you guys basically jam, you take those songs, you take what you jammed and kind of find the best riffs and then kind of expand from there. Is that what I?
Yeah, and it's for getting everybody's input from the get go. There was a bunch of written songs when Greg O'Donnell, our drummer, came and joined the band, but those were going through some drastic transformation, and actually 2 of them are like the black and white videos that are on there. I'm pretty sure those existed before Greg joined the band, and then we actually melded them into tunes once Greg was there. But boy, that was really kind of pulling teeth, not to really get him to come along, but to realize where his style differed from the previous guy that we'd been working with, Scott Goodman, and who was also an excellent drummer. Just they're coming from 2 different points of view stylistically, and we wanted to make sure that Greg's point of view was represented. So we reworked those. So now when we write, rather than going, hey, I've got this idea that's preconceived, we try to jam, and then you can just see it and you can feel it when like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'll take that home and then put that up onto Dropbox so the other guys can listen to it if they choose to. That'll inspire the next jamming that we do when we get together. We'll get together and maybe play. And for the first 10, 15 minutes, maybe some ideas that I heard and chopped out, I'm kind of reintroducing to the band. Then you start to hear like some things take shape because they've heard that idea before. Even if they don't realize it, they've heard the idea before. And so like the beat will start coming together to really work with that riff because I'll play it more times. And then the bass will really start to come together. And then I'll take that back. And then you'll start applying a little bit of knowledge to it to be able to put other things that we jam that were cool and tie those together. So that like if we jam something that's in, E minor or something and it's really cool, and then we jam something else that's in the key of D minor, then the concept will be to connect those without just simply changing mode, like truly changing keys, so that we have the E minor section for the verse and the D minor section for the pre-chorus. And then because of that harmonic movement, then we can decide where should we go for the true chorus. Well, we could either keep that chorus in D minor, or we could put it back in E minor since that's going to sound familiar. That's where we started from. Or we can move maybe to like G minor, which would be a nice key to move to from D. Then the goal is going to be how do we get from G minor back to E minor so that we can do something that we've done before. You know what I mean? But if we've got different riffs that are similar in either a groove or easily relatable keys or whatnot, then I'll try to stick those together, just gluing them together, Frankenstein on this side, and put them up on Dropbox. And then when we jam those, they'll completely get bastardized again. But that's okay, because about the third time that we play that bastardized idea, it will like become a song with so many different pieces.
It's like like you're saying, like it's you have an idea, and then a couple months down the road, it might be this whole big different grand thing that it's like, holy shit, I forgot it grew up.
Yeah.
He
grew up. Yeah, birthed it. Yeah, birthed it.
I find that if I were to write something like I did as a kid, and Shadowed Fate, and would like kind of write the whole tune and bring it over, and everybody would put their player stamp on it, but they wouldn't really adjust the music that much. They would just adjust the playing. What happens with Derek and I is if I'm playing something in A minor, and let's say I'm on an A minor chord and I decide to go to an F major chord, but we're jamming, so he doesn't know that. He'll sense like that it should probably move. So A, and then maybe he'll hit a D. So now he's got the D in the bass, and I'm playing an F major chord. F, A, C, he's playing the D in the bass. So now we have D, F, A, C, which is a D minor 7 chord. So the fact that he went to the D when I went to the F major, actually the tonality of that chord that we hit is a D minor 7. But that's something that maybe I wouldn't have written. I wouldn't have necessarily went, it should go to a D minor 7. Because of the jamming, he moves to that D. Maybe the next thing he does is he goes to a C, but I'm probably going to slide up to the damn G. And so now we've got all the notes that are in a G chord with the C. So now what are we going to call that? You don't have to name the damn chord. I'm just saying your ears will start to hear things. Your ears will start to hear, oh, that's the tonality of that chord is really interesting. It's not something I would have intentionally written because there's so much flavor in those two ideas happening simultaneously.
That's the beauty of in the moment.
Yeah. And it's something that I wouldn't have come up with. So I'm more, I don't know, tickled to hear it when it happens. when those things accidentally happen and it works in this kind of cool magical way, you're like, oh man, that's really cool sounding.
Like
let's do that again.
That you don't always get. Like I understand what you're saying. Like when you're playing with you, and then all of a sudden you figure out this little part and you play it, and you're like, oh fuck, There it is, guys.
Being a three-piece band, often we're writing the music first, and the vocals are kind of an afterthought. And so that way, our bass player can just play bass as we're writing the music. We come up with the music, and then once the music is basically nailed down, he'll start putting melody lines to it, or the drummer will put melodies lines to it, or lyrics, or I'll write lyrics or melody lines, and then we'll bring those together, and then we'll work on those melody lines. Yeah. Well, if the melody line is very, Mary had a little lamb, Greg writes a little straighter than Derek sings. Derek has the ability to put all the little runs and turns on the music because his voice just allows him to do that. So you can take something that's very structured like Mary had a little lamb, and he'll put some style in it, a little blues, a little soul in that melody, and it'll bring that melody.
It'll bring that melody
to a stop.
Oh, there you are.
There we go.
That was weird.
You stopped it, and we'll bring that melody
to life.
There's the big build up right there.
Yeah.
It's funny because like a lot of stuff that I'm doing now is I guess you can classify it as like a studio musician. I just get stuff and I'm like, I got to put a bass line to this. I don't have a relationship with these people. I don't know them. I don't know their personalities. I just know that this is what the drums are doing. This is what the guitar is doing. I should do something like this. It's this style, so I'll play a bass line in that style. And so it's not the same as like, I kind of feel like writing songs with friends. I would call bandmates friends at that point, and you're just kind of like you're jamming and you're becoming one with the music. And
Greg has a real, again, since both the other guys sing well, once Derek will lay down a lead vocal, then Greg will toss a microphone in front of him, and it will be the Greg choir, the Greg Tabernacle Choir, for a day, and he'll lay down. He tries to not sing like Derek is singing. Contour wise, so if the melody line is going up, 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 then he's not going to sing that. He may go down, up, down, or down, up, up, or something, so that it's not the same contour to that melody line. Then he'll sing a harmony along with himself. From time to time, those notes will overlap what Derek's doing. Then when I get back to the studio at the house, I'll like tune him until it's truly a unique harmony part that doesn't touch the main vocal line. But that will lead to these interesting flavors, because from time to time, as he's tracking, because he doesn't know what he's going to sing, he's just developing stuff on the fly. It's like he's jam singing, you know what I mean? And so he'll go to hit like the minor third, actually in The Air You Breathe, the song that you did play a bit of earlier. When that goes to the chorus is based around an A minor progression, but every time we hit that chord, it's an A major. And the reason being, when Greg went to hit the C, he oversang it and he hit a C sharp. And so when we got done with the take, it was, because we didn't know what he was going to do. And I was like, man, that was actually really cool. Because he looked like, that kind of sucked. And I'm like, no, listen, you play it back and you can hear, that's really interesting with that major sound as opposed to the minor sound that we were actually aiming for. And it just completely changed how chorus section hit.
I like when songs have those, I wouldn't call them mess ups, but mess ups in them.
Yeah,
that just gives them like flavor and life. Even if it's like, it might even be a harsh sound sometimes, like but it just adds some soul is probably the wrong word, but adds some flavor to the song. I like, because a lot of the stuff I feel like is kind of overproduced. Like, well, let's do it again. Got to get it perfect. Like, do you really got to get it perfect?
And there's a lot of times now that they will record. God,
I know I'm losing my words now too. It's getting late.
They'll record like the chorus, and they're like, "Okay, we're just gonna copy that and we're gonna paste it."
Yeah.
And so there isn't that opportunity to
a lot of variety.
Again.
Yeah.
So do you think that in today's music, there's like only like what 6 or 7 producers that actually produce like all the songs in the world these days or something, and so everything sounds the same?
Probably, because again, I think it's become more of a marketing kind of thing. And so, hey, we know this will sell. We know this has sold products in the past. It's selling products in the future. So create another thing that sells products. Yeah. And as far as like, but what if we did this interesting new stylistic thing? Like, no, we don't know if that will work. Do the thing that we know will work.
Oh, well, it's been almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't playing anywhere, so
not currently.
We can't really pinpoint. Well,
not
you got
currently.
anything coming out? Are you working on anything new? That's
Yeah, we just finished a mix yesterday for another tune. I don't know. We'll probably end up doing a lyric video for that just because of the state of the COVID lockdown junk here. Probably get that over to Greg and he'll make just some kind of a lyric video. So there is a video to stare at, give your eyeballs something to do as you're listening.
I like lyric videos.
And then we have like a good skeleton to a new idea it'll probably take us a month, maybe a month and a half since holidays are happening.
Now. Just
We always just release a single at a time because again, we're doing it for us more than anything. It'd be fantastic if somebody else enjoyed it.
People have short attention spans. They won't listen through a whole record. I think.
And what do they do?
EPs or singles. That's the way to do it nowadays.
If we gave them a CD, what are they going to do with it? Use it as a coaster?
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's no reasson for it.
Yeah.
So it keeps us as fresh as we could be in people's minds. And at our age, you got to do that.
Well, everybody who's listening, if you're listening to the podcast, in the description you'll see links to their YouTube and their Facebook. YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, they all have the links to all their stuff. So that if you want to listen to their repertoire of music, you can. And when the new stuff comes out, and so that's the best way to listen to your music right now. So you're not on Spotify and all that stuff. So we'll get you going.
Now, the easiest way to get all of them is on YouTube. Also on our Facebook, you can scroll down and you'll see all the videos listed. That's got all the music.
Right.
All right. Well,
cool.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
all
Dominic.
Right. Dominic, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was fun. Nice to meet you, RJ.
Hell yeah, you too, man.
All right.
Good seeing you, Paul.